ladies and gentlemen, staff, welcome to our November meeting. Almost at the end of the year we are. Please be advised that this council meeting is being recorded. By speaking at the meeting, you agree to being recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cabonne Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. The recording of this meeting will be made publicly available on Council's website. I'll call the first item. Number 1, application for leave of absence. I have one from Councillor Durkin. Could somebody move that? Moved by Councillor Oldham, seconded by Councillor Newsom. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Jones, was it? Yep. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Newsom. Item 14 for Councillor Newsom. Councillor Batten.
Item 13, Events Assistance Program application.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 3, declaration for political donations. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Oldham. Anything to declare? No. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. All right, it gives me pleasure to welcome Leanne Smith, our auditor, who's going to talk to us today. So welcome, Leanne, and if you could please come forward. Wherever you feel comfortable.
Right, so those of you who've been here before, my name's Leanne Smith. I'm a director from New Teachers. Previously you would have had John O'Malley presenting to council as the contract agent for the audit office. We had a requirement to rotate partners across clients this year, so that's reasonable change. So probably just before we get into the specifics of Cabonne's audit for 2020, probably just a few general observations about the sector and the role of the Auditor General. Obviously the Auditor General reports direct to Parliament and they have a mandate to provide greater consistency and confidence across the sector and in the financial data, improve the governance and accountability, and also allow for some better benchmarking across the sector. Their roles provide independent assurance on the financial statements and the supporting schedules that have been prepared by management and that have been endorsed by council, and they report our findings from our audit both to management, to council, and eventually through to Parliament. Areas of focus for 2019-20, you'd be aware since the Auditor General has been involved with the local government sector, there's been an annual report to Parliament that's been presented by the Auditor General. So typically from year to year that will include the audit results in terms of financial statement audits for councils, also any key themes or consistent sort of messages that are coming out of the management letter points. This year as well, they are focusing on local government and not just local governments but across the state sector as well, response to natural disasters that we had before COVID, so the bushfire, the drought, the floods, those sorts of things, and obviously also response to COVID and the impact of that on operations. This year also looking at landfills and continuing on from the prior year as well, continuing to focus on IT general controls. So in relation to Cabonne, the current year, there are probably two main, significant matters that have impacted on the audit and the financial statements for this year. The first of those was the initial application of 2 new revenue standards and a leasing standard. So in relation to the leasing standard, council didn't have any leases or contracts that fell under that new standard, so there wasn't any requirement to make any amendments to the numbers or transactions due to that standard. The revenue standard, however, was a different matter. It impacts on the timing, effectively, of when revenue is recognised. The grants aren't the only area that it can impact, but in relation to local government, we've typically found that capital grants is the main area in which that has changed the way that the revenue is recognised compared to what was happening previously. So what we now have is this concept of a contract liability, which may have previously been called something like unearned income, where you've received the grant before you've done the works that are required to be completed under the grant. And then we also have contract assets, which is where, for example, you might get the funding after you've done the work and then you submit a claim for the funding for the works that you've completed, and they're contract assets. So at 1 July 2019, Council had to recognise an opening equity adjustment of $681,000 for contract liabilities in relation to grants that have been received in previous financial years. And then at 30 June, there was just over $3 million in contract assets were recognised and $1.1 million worth of contract liabilities recognised at the end of the financial year. The other significant matter for 2020 was obviously the revaluation of the infrastructure assets. So this is obviously a large, time-consuming and involved exercise that involved both council staff and also some external valuers who were involved. So this was a revaluation of roads, bridges, footpaths, curb and gutter, stormwater drainage. So big categories and big numbers. So that saw a $14.3 million decrease in the carrying value of council's infrastructure assets as a result of that exercise. And then there was also the annual indexation of the water and sewer assets, which was a little under $500,000. So the consolidated operating result, so including general water and sewer funds for the year, that was sitting at $4.6 million before capital and just over $13 million after the inclusion of capital grants and contributions. In relation to the water and sewer funds, I felt it was probably worth just probably highlighting the results that are coming through on those funds on an annual basis. They've had historically, apart from some small positives in 2018, 2019, they're generally running at a loss before capital from year to year at this time. So then when we contrast that with the general fund is generally returning strong results, surpluses before capital on an annual basis. And so that's probably just highlighting the zeros are in the wrong spot, highlighting the gap between how the general fund is operating. And obviously it's larger and there's bigger numbers involved, but just highlighting that continuing deficit that's being experienced in the water and sewer funds. Operating revenue, if we break that down by source, there's probably not much in there that is significantly different from the prior periods. Probably just that jump in the operating grants and contributions for the year. You'll all be aware that there's been some additional funding coming through in the last couple of years, and that's what's bumping up that number a little bit. And also there's we still have some advance payments of the financial assistance grant sitting in those results as well. Operating expenditure, again, there's not a huge amount of movement in there. The materials and contracts expenditure will obviously fluctuate from year to year depending on what the mix of operational and capital works are that are being conducted by council at any given time. Cash and investments, so it stayed fairly consistent between the two financial years, sitting at just under 47 million in both financial years. And again, it hasn't been a significant movement from the prior year between the internal and the external restrictions or even the unrestricted cash that's available. And again, probably just highlighting the water and sewer funds, so pulling them out a little bit from the consolidated result. So there was a large, what appears to be a large dip in the water fund in 2018, but there was actually some significant receivables that were in there at the end of the financial year as well. However, they're sort of tracking along, water's tracking along the last couple of years about 4.5, and it's dipped a little bit down to 4.4. And sewer's been tracking at around the same level for the last couple of years. I guess what this is trying to highlight is that there's not been any real significant growth in the funds available in either of the water or the sewer fund. There's some sufficient funds there to maintain your operational capacity, but at this time, but certainly without significant capital grants or contributions coming in, there's probably not a lot of funds in those, a lot of dollars in those funds to support any significant capital works of themselves without the capital grant funding or without drawing funds out of the general fund. Operating performance ratio. So this is intended to look at how well council is containing its operating expenditure within its operating revenue. This is a little bit below the benchmark this year, although it's improved since last year. This can be impacted by the level of capital grants and contributions you receive from year to year, because obviously that will change. They impact on the calculation of this ratio. So where that's sitting at, even though it's marginally below the benchmark, it probably doesn't sort of raise any flags or any concerns. Unrestricted current ratio, so it's sitting at 6.02. So this is looking at how many unrestricted current assets council has to pay for its current liabilities. So the benchmark that's been set by the OLG in relation to this is 1.5. So the bond's sitting well above that and has been for a number of years. The rates and annual charges outstanding ratio. This is well below the benchmark of 10%. I think it's sitting about 4.7 is where it was in the financials. You're probably about the only council I've seen so far this year where that ratio has actually come down. So in most cases that's actually increased, particularly with the suspension of recovery action during the year. So that's a really pleasing result in relation to that ratio. And the debt service cover ratio, so this is looking at the extent to which council has the capacity to cover its borrowings effectively. And again, it's up the benchmark, it's above the benchmark at 34.29. So the benchmark is actually set at greater than 2. And that's just, I guess, just a graphic of council's debt. So there hasn't been any borrowings in the last couple of years. So that's just continuing to come down as the level of, as the repayments are made and no new borrowings are drawn, then that will keep coming down. In relation to, I touched briefly on the revaluation at the start of the year, but other than that, council's renewed $4.26 million worth of assets during the financial year, compared to $5 million in the previous year. And the unaudited, the infrastructure renewals ratio was sitting at 47.6, which the OLG benchmarks 100, but yours was sitting at about 58 last year as well. So then there was also another $17.4 million spent on new assets, and that included $9.6 million in relation to roads infrastructure. So that's probably the main things that I wanted to touch on, Mr. Mayor. So other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Batten's first in.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. The asset value of roads, bridges, footpaths and stormwater are down by 14.3 million, but we've invested 9.6 million in roads infrastructure. I would have thought that the largest contribution to that decrease would have been depreciation of the bridges, given that we've done a lot of new work on bridges. So if I'm wrong, what is it?
For the decrease?
Yeah.
There's quite a few reasons for the decrease. I guess one of the things that was done as part of the valuation was there was a fair amount of physical inspection done this year. So that doesn't just, so that will pick up any anomalies in relation to the condition assessment, which I think is what you were talking about in relation to, say, bridges. But it also looks at things like, so this valuation, there was a lot of use of rates that were actually drawn from, so a unit rate to build a road. A lot of the numbers that were actually drawn, used for that this year, were drawn from Cabonne Council's own information from where you've gone and done it. Whereas I think in previous periods, valuers might have tended to use their own number that they've come up with that isn't necessarily a reflection of what it costs Cabonne to do the work. There are also changes in dimensions. So a road might have been originally assumed to be a certain width, but when somebody's actually gone out and inspected it, it might be larger or smaller. So there's a whole myriad of factors that come into that calculation that can impact it both upwards and downwards. And certainly, like if I look at yours, where do I find it? So there was actually the roads infrastructure actually came down significantly in terms of the value, and possibly a lot of that's possibly got to do with depreciation and revisiting the condition assessment on those assets. And then there was actually an increase in some of the other categories as well, such as stormwater, where either the unit rate has changed or there's been a determination that they've actually got a longer useful life than what was originally assumed.
Well, that also, I think they're depreciation.
Yes.
And that also affect the depreciation.
Yeah. Yeah, going forward.
Anybody else have any questions at all?
No? I think it's pretty well.
Well, thank you, Leanne, for your time and your presentation. It's very good news. And on that note, I'd like to thank the finance team who was sitting up the back there. Everybody turn around and have a look at our wonderful finance team.
Thank you.
All except for Chris.
Yep.
Don't look at Chris. And I'd like to thank the finance team for a great job. I was at an audit meeting, or spoke at an audit meeting on Wednesday, and expressed to that audit meeting what a great job that our finance team has done under difficult circumstances this year with COVID and off the back of the drought. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Great.
I had to correct myself, it wasn't at the meeting. Hey. All right, moving on with the meeting. Item 4 is the mayoral minute. I'll move that, and I have tabled a report. Does anybody else have anything for the mayoral minute? Tabled by Councillor Davison, tabled by Deputy Mayor Jones. Anybody else? Nope. I'll put that. All those in favour?
Yep.
Against? That is carried. Item 5 is Committee of the Whole. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oldham, seconded by Councillor Nash. Do we have anything for Committee of the Whole? Item 12, called by Councillor Davison. Yeah, just don't forget to use your mics, please. Anything else for Committee of the Whole? No? All right, well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 6 is grouping of reports. Could I have a mover, please? We're grouping 7 to 10. Councillor Weaver, mover, seconded by Councillor Nash. Everybody happy with that? All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 11 is the confirmation of minutes. Can I just have a mover, please?
I'll move, Mr Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Travers. And can I just bring this to your attention in regards to the minutes? A notation to clarify the resolution relating to closed item 3 in the October confidential business papers, noting that points 1 and 2 of the recommendation relate to the tender of provisions of heavy patching services. In the minutes it was worded actually re-sheeting, so it's heavy patching should be there. So is everybody happy with that? Yep. All right. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 12 is in committee of the whole. Item 13 is the Events Assistance Program, and Councillor Batten's declared an interest and is leaving the room. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Newsom, seconded by Deputy Mayor Jones. Any discussion on that at all? Everybody happy? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. Councillor Batten, that was moved as per the recommendation, unanimously. Item 14, Councillor Newsom's declared an interest in this matter and is leaving the room. Could I have somebody move this, please? Moved by Councillor Travers, seconded by Councillor Weaver. All right. Any speaker for?
I'll speak for it.
Yep.
I'll speak for it, Mr Mayor. I was just pleased to see the applicants that we got, and I believe that the tourism, the CTAC committee will be all the better for the talent that we're bringing on board.
Yep, agreed. Agree totally. Yep. Anybody wish to speak against that? No? All right, any further discussion? Everyone's happy? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Councillor Newsom, that was passed as per the recommendation unanimously. Item 15 is the Oval Showground water consumption. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Davison. You wish to speak for that? Councillor Nash?
Oh, I've just read the report and I think it's fair to write it off and, wish them all the best.
Anybody wish to speak against that? No? Any further comment?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor, if I could ask a question. Has the matter been completely resolved now? Has the water pipes been fixed to a suitable standard so it can't happen again?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I can confirm that council officers have attended and investigated, and both meters appear to be running as the way they should be.
Anything further on that? All happy? I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 16 is the 2020 Christmas lights in Cabon. Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Newsom. Just to add, there is an addition to the proposed town and villages and locations are, we've added Eugowra in there. It was just an error, they were not put in the papers. And the lights are going in the tree.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I can confirm that the lights are proposed to be erected in Nanamai Street, the trees in the middle of the road and out the front of the supermarket.
And a late item, when we can source some lights. Any discussion on that at all? Councillor Weaver.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say it's lovely to see Christmas being celebrated in Cabong because it's been pretty quiet for years now. You know, it's just been each town doing their own thing. It's nice to see Cabong get behind the towns in the Shire. Thank you.
Well said, and I must admit, driving around, the lights are already up, aren't they? So it's great.
Be nice to see Paul all next year.
We'll see what we can do. All right, no further discussion. I'll move that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Item 17 is the Dam Safety Act and Regulatory Framework. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Davidson, seconded by Councillor Travers. You wish to speak to that, Councillor Davidson, at all?
There's a few questions I've just got for it, Mr Mayor, but it seems that this is just another...
Mike, please.
Sorry about that. It just seems that it's another regulation. Does this include bodies such as CWT? Has it got our two dams in it, or our major dams of Molong and Boranor? Who's going to be responsible for it, for this eventually? Is it going to fall back onto councils to have to do dam restructures if this body says that there's something wrong? Or what happens then?
If I may, Mr Mayor, all registered dams that are subject to the Dam Safety Act are included in this levy. So all parties that have registered dams have been notified of this levy. So yes, Central Tablelands Water is included in that, as are the other water authorities. With regards to going forward, the Dam Safety Board doesn't take ownership of the dams. They are an independent party which assesses the risk and prescribes requirements to be undertaken for rectification of dams. So it would be on the authority looking after the dam to fund any repairs required or to mitigate any risks identified by the board.
Just one further question.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, there is sometimes we are the owner of the dam, so they quite often do still ask us for some funding as well, but similar to other infrastructure, not the major portion, is my understanding.
I can confirm that, Mr Mayor. Yes, we are, as the authority, responsible for the dams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I noticed that the levy of another 18,500 on our ratepayers seems to be another cost that we have to bear yet again.
Yes.
Mr Mayor, one thing that is left out of the report is that that levy that's also raised doesn't pay for the assessment of the dams. So council also has to pay for an independent party to inspect the dams and provide a report to the Dam Safety Board. So we have to pay for our own assessment, and they assess that assessment and tell us what to do.
And any likely cost of that, Mr Deputy?
It's approximately $30,000, Councillor.
So we're looking at a total bill of about 50 grand.
Yes.
Per annum? Is this a per annum charge?
No, it's not per annum. It's every 3 years.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comment? We'll move along then. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Item 18 is the reserve funding budget variation. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Batten, seconded by Councillor Weaver. Any discussion at all? No. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 19 is the Gower voluntary purchase. Could I have a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Deputy Mayor Jones. Any comment, discussion? Pretty straightforward. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 20, Peak Hill Road upgrade under roads of strategic importance program. Could I have a mover, please? Yes. Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Trevors. Any discussion? No. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 21 is the funding offer for replacement of Washpen Bridge, Gundong Road, I should say. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Batten, mover, seconded by Deputy Mayor Jones. Any discussion on that at all?
Mr Mayor, through you, I'd like to just make a comment that this is a timely activity, and I believe that as a user of that particular road from time to time, that Washpen Bridge is actually a traffic hazard which definitely has needed replacement, and I think this is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you for that. A lot of truck route across there, so yeah. Any further comment, discussion? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 22 is DA 2019/00101, modification of farmstay accommodation, lot 12, DP 868993, Griffin Road, Orange. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Trevor, seconded by Councillor Nash. Any discussion at all on that?
Mr Mayor, just a question of the director or the deputy GM for this area. Some years ago we had a number of cabins put forward on a development on Forbes Road at Heifer Station. Is this a similar project to that? Or how does it vary? We opposed that at the time and talked to the Environmental Court.
Through you, Mr Chair, while you were speaking about councillors now, it's a different LEP, different definitions. This proposal was actually considered by council for a slightly larger development. It's now been downsized, and although the first application did have objection from the neighbours, this revised streamlined case example has not raised any concerns with the neighbours. To answer your question, the LEP has changed over the years, and as per this report, the definition and permissibility is within the terms of the Cabon LEP 2012.
Thank you.
Any further comment or question?
No, good thing.
I'll have to wait for Jane. You can make one. We'll just have to wait for Councillor Jones to return, and I need a show of hands for a division on this. We'll just record his absence and I'll ask for a show of hands. So I'll put this, all those in favour. 11, 1 absent. Against is carried. Yeah, he might have to. We might just wait. If that's all right with everybody?
Yeah, sure.
You might have a question for next meeting. Item 23 is questions for next meeting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Nash. Does anybody have any questions for next meeting?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I did bring it up before. I just wanted an update on the retirement village at Canowindra. Is there any progress at all?
Yeah, there is. I'll hand over to the GM. He'll give you a little update. Microphones.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the project is proceeding to a feasibility study. We've engaged King and Campbell, who were doing the main street, involved in the main street at Canowindra Master Plan, to do a bit of an extension on that to look at the different options now. And they've been had a conversation with the committee members, so we're awaiting that report, and which we'll bring back to council, which will highlight the number of different options we have and what hopefully is the best course of action. But there's still a bit of work to do, but that has proceeded.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Nash.
I just wondered if there's any update on the moving of the Manildra Library at all down the main street. I haven't heard any more on that. Maybe a report by next meeting, thanks.
Through you, Mr Mayor, we can do that, and I would put my hand up to say that project stalled due to COVID, and we can pick that back up and bring back the report.
Councillor Davison, you got something?
No.
Councillor Newson.
An inquiry re one of the assets that are based in Canowindra, which is the courthouse. I'm just wondering, is there a plan in place, or what is the plan that's going to be put in place in relation to this asset, or whether we keep it, sell it, rent it, or whatever we're going to do? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can take that on notice. I will just provide a quick update to councillors that we are in the initiation phase of a review of all council properties, with a mind to bringing a complete list to council for consideration of the future of all land and property going forward.
Councillor Jones.
Through you, Mr Mayor, could I please ask staff to come back, probably not for the next meeting, but early next year, with a plan and the next steps to remove the flood zoning in New Gowra, now that the levy is nearing completion. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 24 is business paper items for noting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Batten. Anybody wish to call any items from the noting? Nothing at all? No. All right, all good. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 25 is matters of urgency. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Davison, seconded by Councillor Travers. Does anybody have anything of a urgent nature? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 26 is committee of the whole section of the meeting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Travers, seconded by Councillor Oldham. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Now item 12 is called by Councillor Davison, which is the quarterly budget review. I presume you'll move that, Councillor Davison. Seconder, please. Councillor Nash. All right, Councillor Davison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is just a procedural thing, really. I'd like to put on notice that that our original budgets and our revised budgets are showing enormous changes. Now, they're going the right way, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong about them, but people who would view this at a later stage without the knowledge of what COVID was all about, say in 5 years' time, would look at this and say, we originally started off an operating budget figure of $1.1 million deficit, and we ended up with a revised budget of $12.1 million in surplus, as the same with the cash result, $50,000 to $2.4 million. Our capital expenditure 16 to 33, and our reserve balance is 44, dropping back down to 33. They're very large differences between the two of them, and particularly in view of the general fund, if I could just refer to that one. We start off with a deficit of 1.6, and then we end up going from there to a surplus of 10.3, with our reserve budgets going the opposite way from 37 to 26. I just need to have a bit of an explanation for the record as to what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor, I think it's probably just best to recognise this is just the first quarterly review.
Yes.
And so from the the opening balance, and as you'll be aware, we've been this includes all the revotes and the carry forwards, and those include things like Puzzle Flat. So there's some large numbers that have come in, along with grant funding, as you're aware, to which there will still be capital expenditure. So it's only the first quarter, and yes, we have had the revotes, the carry forwards come through, and there's some big dollars in that, but there will also be adjustments over the next 3 quarters as we move towards completing a number of these projects.
Thank you. The one other question on the water fund, the reserves for the water fund seem to be down a bit to a deficit of a cash deficit of $800,000. Our reserve budget has also gone down by $800,000 as well. I'm just wondering whether this places any other views on our retention of water as a funding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you would be aware, obviously, we've had to do a lot of, I suppose, works to bring our water assets, well, I'd love to say up to scratch, but we had some interventions we've had to do with the operations of the water fund in the past 12 to 18 months due to pressures by both the drought and some of the maintenance that was not being regularly conducted. So that's where we've had to dip in reserves. We've also had to have a number of strategies done. We've had to get some consultants in to help us with our water. You recall that we had treatment issues in that as well. So that's a big driver of those costs going up. But as the auditor indicated, and as we've indicated in past meetings, that we've got some work to do in our water sewer to work out our long-term financial plans for those two funds, which finance and the infrastructure people will be working hard on, and we'll be coming back to council with a state of play as to how we fund those significant and vital assets going forward.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Mr. Mayor, just one more question, if I could indulge you. On the quarterly review pages at the back of the reports, there's a figure here that says that rates and charges are $14.9 million, our budget, which is the same as our revised budget, and our actual is 13.2. So we've got all that. We are saying that we have all the money in there, and yet our users and charges and fees, the next line down, which is $8 million in round figures, and we've got an actual of $800,000. And I'm just wondering about, there seems to be a disparity between not all the rates have been paid, and I just need to just to clarify that in my own mind, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The rates and charges, so when we set the rate, my understanding is that essentially when we go into our financial year, that's shown as income already. It's not like a business where we hope our customers pay. We actually set the rate and then we have to show that as recognised income at that time as we go forward. Obviously, there's unders and overs at the end where sometimes, as you saw in the graph from the auditors, I think 4% of our rates aren't realised potentially, but we deal with that at the end of the financial year. But we set it as an income going forward, and the user charges. I'd come back to you on that, but I believe that that's a different situation where you actually, as you get them, you recognise them. So that's hence the time of year we haven't received as many user charges, but that's how we do it with the rates. I don't know.
I wish I had a business like that.
The leader of finance is at the back. Have I got that right? There, Monica. There. Thank you.
Be nice to have a business like that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I've taken up enough of your time.
Any further questions? All good? All right, I'll put that item. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Now we've got to move to item 27, which is the supplementary item. Which is the Nolan Canowindra Town Centre concept. Could I have a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Batten, seconded by Councillor Jones. You should speak to that, Councillor Batten.
Just make a quick comment through you, Mr. Mayor. Just commending the staff in the way that the consultation has been done. The feedback that certainly we've had from Molong is that it's been a positive engagement with the community, which is actually consistent with the policy of community engagement that we actually approved as part of the business papers today earlier on. So, Mr. General Manager, congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak against it? And anybody else wish to speak for? No. All right, there's a clarification. Oh, Councillor Weaver, is it for?
Yes, I'd just like to say it's actually given the people of the towns a chance to express what they want for the future. And, you know, sort of, council's got blamed for a lot of things in the past that have just been done, whereas they're having a say on this as to what they want to see have happen in their towns. Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager, just going to clarify something?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to put on the record too that draw council attention to there was a response number 8 in the spreadsheet, which didn't go into the report, but just wanted to acknowledge that we did take on board that response to the Canowindra was which had similar issues raised that other people had raised, and that obviously has equally gone into the consideration of going forward. And also just apologise for the spreadsheet is somewhat difficult to read within the business paper online on the PDF, but when we put it on our website, it'll be legible for the community, etc., to be able to have a look at that. So just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Look, I agree with both all the comments. The consultation process with both towns was excellent. Their involvement with the people that were there were excellent, and the drop-in centres as well. So it's been a very, very good process. So with that, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. All right, I'll now close the ordinary meeting and go to the confidential. There's one more confidential. Okay, everybody with me in confidential? Yep. Right.